for joining us. We have been talking a ton about Ansible Lightspeed for a while now, and I love picking your brain on this. So I thought it would be fun to dig into it and share with our customers a little bit more about Ansible Lightspeed. So let's start at the very beginning, if you would. What is Ansible Lightspeed?
Okay, so Ansible Lightspeed is now artificial intelligence brought to us for Ansible. What we are doing is we are doing generative AI, changing natural language into playbooks. So this is a great way now to start getting people who aren't accustomed to writing playbooks to simply say what you want it to do and be able to get a playbook that can immediately start to be utilized in your environment.
Great. Share with me, and this is one of my favorite things that we talk about, is how are folks using it?
How are folks using Lightspeed today? In various ways, actually. So as I kind of said, for people that aren't actually accustomed to writing playbooks, this is a very quick and easy way to get other teams involved. Ultimately, when it comes down to automation, that's just the word that we're trying to do, is to automate that process. But the big picture here is orchestration, right? What we want to do is get end to end on what that desired state needs to look like. And that's not just necessarily one team. You don't really have that automation team that does it, because we've got the application owners, we've got infrastructure team, we've got the networking team, database team, security teams, right? And so on. And they all come together to be able to get to that place. Now, typically, most people have done automation in a framework kind of like configuration management, and that's generally going to be sitting with the infrastructure teams to do so, right? But if I want to do a full deployment, well, now I've got these gaps where I have to bring other people in because they're probably not using Ansible to some degree, right? So now it's like pause, open up a ticket and get them to come involved, and they'll use whatever tools or manual steps they're using today. But that's not really automation, is it? Because there's always gaps in. So being able to now tell them, just tell it what you need to do, and it's going to generate the playbook, go through your testing framework with it to make sure you're happy with it, and now just include it into our flow as we go through end to end. So that's the first piece, right? Is to get the other teams involved in it. Another one as well is typically people have the, if it's not broke, don't fix it mentality. And that's great, right? Because if it works, it works. But it doesn't mean what we've actually created is really kind of like optimized. And so using AI to actually look back at our existing playbooks that teams have actually created and go ahead and just check to see, hey, is there a more efficient way to do this? Then we can start to reduce the time automation's taken, getting end to end as well, and start boosting a morale among what all the automation teams are doing to get there.
For folks who are just getting started, what would you recommend they do, or how would you recommend they start?
Okay, so one of the things that we have in Lightspeed is by default, it has the suggested by Lightspeed header on there. And actually keep that on, right? If you've never used Ansible or never used Lightspeed before, it actually helps to know which piece was actually done by artificial intelligence and which piece you did yourself as well, right? So that's a really good little tip just up there. And now as other people look at it, they'll know, oh yeah, this is from an AI-driven one that goes through there. Also, potentially start with tasks itself, right? So when we look at AI, we can do it from an individual task, right? For instance, if we go back to the web server component, I can literally say for my first task name to install the package, okay? Install the Apache package. And it will give me that one individual task that says how to do this. And then after that, I can ask the next task to be like, start the service, right? And then the next one comes up. So when you first start to break in, look at your individual steps that you need to do. Start using AI for those individual steps. You'll start to learn yourself very quickly on what a playbook task looks like, right? To get you to that end state, right? Because ultimately you want to be able to understand what's happening and just clearly relying on AI for this. But then once you get into that realm, if you start to get anything that's going to be more in depth, right? Where if you have a very kind of like full flow that you need to be able to have multiple steps in the way. The other thing you can do is actually have AI generate the entire playbook for you. And what you do with that is at the very top, right, of the playbook is you'll basically put a comment in there, and then you'll put each individual step, but you use the ampersand to let it know next task and next task in there. That will then run and go ahead and give you the full output. So again, if I wanted to do Apache at the top in a comment section, I would simply say install Apache package, ampersand, start the service, ampersand, open port 443, right? If I need the three in there. And then I'll get my 3 tasks immediately put up, and it's aware of each individual one it's doing. And then from that, what we now have is we have a playbook, but we also have documentation at the very top that anybody looks at can just read the very top of it and says exactly what we're expecting this playbook to do. So another good way is you start with task individuals and then look at doing the entire lot to keep your documentation at the top where that's needed.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us, Phil. We look forward to having you on more of these episodes of Quick Code Ideas. And we thank everyone for spending the time with us.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.